What's up guys, I'm Sean and welcome back to the channel. If you haven't been following this channel, the subscribe button is right down there. If you have been following this channel, you know that I bought my car brand new just over a year ago. I love it, it's comfortable, practical, reliable, and cheap to maintain. It saves fuel and has been nothing but great at what it's supposed to do. However, with the way resale prices have been going lately, with cars that are even 2 or 3 years old fetching close to, if not more than what they originally sold for, 1-year-old cars like mine are no exception. So this is a rather interesting situation that we have today that is really a result of a number of factors that I will not go into today, but I will tell you this, it has got me browsing through the used car market a little bit as I'm a bit curious to see if there's anything out there that can be had for similar money that could be a worthy upgrade. So to help with my decision making, I've penned down some of my thoughts about getting a new versus a used car. Now today's video is purely going to be an opinion piece which you may or may not agree with, but I believe it's still something worth sharing for you to consider if you ever find yourself in a similar situation. So let's start by listing down the pros of getting a brand new car first. Pro number 1, it's clean, it's shiny, it's new. Yes, there's really not a lot that I need to explain here. It has 0 mileage on it, 0 wear, definitely a big plus, and what's not to like about it? Warranties are great. They provide a level of assurance that your new car is covered if anything happens to stop working through no fault of your own. Factory warranties are also getting longer and longer these days, many being 3 to 5 years, with some even offering 10 years on certain parts. Even buying from a parallel importer, while it may not entitle you to a factory warranty, it does get you an in-house warranty, which although may not be as long as a factory warranty and is usually through one of their own partner workshops, is still better than not having any at all. Well, because you are literally the first owner, there's absolutely no service history to worry about. This is especially good for those of you who are very particular about your service intervals, as you will be able to decide exactly how you would like your car to be maintained. And for those of you who aren't so disciplined about regularly servicing your car, you will also benefit from having a car that is mint from the get-go. That is not to mention the complimentary service packages that usually accompany a brand new purchase, which will usually have you set for at least the next year or so. Now this may not be a big thing to everyone, but for those of you who love to customize your cars, a brand new car is practically a clean slate for you to do whatever you want with it. Used cars typically have already been customized and worn down to a certain degree, and having to do it back up to a condition that satisfies you could potentially be a costly affair. Then again, I'm probably just trying to give myself more reasons to keep my current car. Now let's move on to the cons of buying brand new. While a car's yearly depreciation in Singapore doesn't typically vary that much from an equivalent used model, having to bear the full cost of buying a brand new car with a full COE is a significantly higher quantum than compared to a used car with a shortened COE and an already depreciated body value. If you are unfamiliar with our COE system, I've got a simple explanation right up here. As the first owner, you typically take the biggest hit of the car's depreciation. There is, however, an argument to be made specific to Singapore that because of our tax and COE system, this initial depreciation isn't really as significant considering the overall cost of the car. It is, however, still a loss and something that you should be considering. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of getting a used car. All things being equal, you've already dodged the first owner depreciation hit by buying used. So unless you're looking at a particularly rare or desirable model that has somehow managed to buck the trend and actually appreciated in value, there's really not much chance of it costing more than it did brand new. With COE being such a big component of the cost of a car here, having to only pay for the remaining COE portion on top of the body value of the car does significantly lower the cost of ownership here. The duration of ownership, however, is another story, and that goes to depreciation. But even so, it does help to lower the barrier to entry quite significantly. Now, those are really the main pros of buying a used car, so let's take a look at the cons. So unless you're lucky enough to find a car with very few miles on it, there's always going to be wear and tear somewhere despite what the previous owner might have claimed they have already done. Without any warranty to fall back on, this tends to be the biggest gamble that you undertake when you buy used. Not everyone keeps a proper service record, so if you happen to come across one that doesn't, it's hard to know what you can really trust. So on a side note, if you do want to maintain the value of your car, it is a good idea to keep a proper maintenance record for yourself. I always have a lot of reservations when a listing states a lot of modifications done to the car which supposedly justifies an increase in its value. Yes, it did cost money to do, for sure, but in my experience, more often than not, by doing the mod, something has been compromised in order to achieve a certain level of performance elsewhere. Some of these mods also have a tendency to cause certain issues that lead to band-aid fix after band-aid fix. I much prefer a car that is stock to begin with, so that if I do decide to do any mods to it and encounter any problems along the way, it will be much easier to trace and resolve than if I were to go hunting around and looking for something that I had no idea even existed in the car at all. So just to put things into context for those of you who aren't familiar with our PARF rebate system, basically in Singapore, if you scrap your car within the first 10 years of its life, you are entitled to get back anywhere from 50 to 100% of its open market value or OMV, depending on which year you decide to scrap it. So cars that reach the 10-year mark can have their COE renewed, but by doing so, you will no longer be entitled to receive these PARF rebates when you scrap your car. So what this means is that for cars over 10 years old, if you use it to the end of the COE, you are basically running the value right down to zero, or at least to its scrap value, which is about the same. Yes, it is true that you will typically pay less for a car that has already lost its PARF value, but there's something about having that value locked away that enables you to roll it on to your next car in the future. One key thing to consider when buying a car is not just how much it costs to buy it, but also how much it costs to own and maintain it. A higher end performance or luxury car could possibly be had for a relatively affordable price, especially if it doesn't have a lot of COE remaining. But the cost to own and maintain it could easily exceed an unsuspecting buyer's expectations. Another thing to note is that the road tax system can get particularly expensive for larger engine vehicles. Not to mention that it also increases as the car goes beyond 10 years old. What this means is that your cost of annual ownership of the car could easily go up significantly if you decide to upgrade, despite the cost and annual depreciation appearing deceivingly similar to your existing car. Now this one is quite subjective. Different people want different things in a car. Some look for driving performance, while others look for comfort and luxury. Some may just want a simple and low-cost ride for themselves, while others may want as much space as they can for work or for the family. Ultimately, this one comes down to what you value the most, and there is really no right or wrong. Newer cars, more often than not, are more fuel efficient compared to their older equivalents due to technological improvements over time. Of course, there are exceptions, but this is generally the case. But of course, as this is also one of the main factors in the running cost of a car, it is something that should be really considered properly, especially if you actually drive a lot. So one way to upgrade is to actually look for a higher annual depreciation car with a significantly shorter COE duration so that you can more or less match the cost of your current car. The problem with doing this, however, is that you end up having to renew your COE or replace your car much sooner than you would originally have to. Also, depending on the duration of your remaining loan, this can end up becoming quite a costly affair. The COE these days is also at the highest that it's been in recent times and showing little sign of easing. Hence, the assurance of having a longer COE is definitely one thing to seriously consider here. At the end of the day, it's really a balance and a gamble about whether that upgrade is worth it enough to you for you to sacrifice the length of your remaining COE. So, after having thought through all of this, it's really not a very easy decision if you were to look at it from a logical point of view. Both sides do appear to be pretty balanced, with really no significant advantage going either way buying brand new or used, unlike in other countries, simply because of how our COE and tax structure works here. I would say that the best way to determine what is right for you is to think about which of the factors above matter the most to you and whether they matter enough to be worth the trade-offs that come with them. So if you really want a fun and higher performance car, and are willing to put up with the higher running cost and shorter COE duration, then that's what will likely tip you over. If you value a lower running cost and simply just want a car for reliable and efficient transport, then that's your answer right there too. In my case, I guess while I wouldn't mind having something a bit more interesting to drive around, right now there's really nothing much on the market within a reasonable range of what I am currently paying that excites me enough to want to upgrade. I suppose I am still open to the idea of upgrading, but it would really have to stir my emotions that strongly enough to make me give up my low running cost and substantial remaining COE of my existing car. So I suppose that's my decision for now, but I will update you if I do change my mind in the future. Once again, thank you for watching and I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Also, if there are any other things that you would like to hear me talk about, please let me know in the comments down below. And so that wraps things up for today, and I will see you in the next video.